with Dave Feldman, BKFC president. You got BKFC 41 coming up, your biggest card ever. But before we get to that, so far, what are you most proud of that a lot of people wouldn't know? Maybe behind the scenes about BKFC and its growth.
Just really just proud that we're able to make these fights go on, because people don't understand. Like there's been fights that, 5 days before the fight I had to find the money to be able to put the fight on. They don't understand what we went through to just be able to put the fights on. So really just to be almost at 60 events right now and putting on some of the best guys in combat sports is pinch me. Man, it's amazing.
Well received. Perry versus Rockhold, Mendez versus Alvarez. Is MMA almost becoming maybe like your sweet spot right now in terms of building a stacked card versus homegrown or boxing? Like, are they leading the charge, or is it just randomly work out for this card that way?
I think it like goes twofold for us, because our last big card we did was called Knucklemania, and we did it in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and it was all homegrown guys. And we did 8,000 tickets. Sold 8,000 tickets, all BKFC homegrown guys. So that was one way of doing it. Now we bring in these big mainstream guys that everybody's heard of, and then we have 10 fights on the undercard of homegrown UFC guys that we want to market. So they're going to tune in for Luke Rockhold versus Mike Perry, Chad Mendez versus Eddie Alvarez, and they're going to catch a whole load of up-and-coming bare-knuckle fighters that they can follow in the future. So it's kind of like double-edged sword on that.
David, things on paper always look different than how they play out. Well, maybe not always, but in the case of Luke Rockhold and Mike Perry, now that you're getting to see it play out, see them in front of each other, the heat that they're generating, what are your thoughts, man? Is this what you envisioned in the beginning in your head when you thought of these two names?
Yeah, you know what it is? It's just a lot of people are excited for it. A lot of people, especially with the size difference. I mean, Luke is a little bigger than him. Luke's a former two-time world champion in two different organizations. Mike Perry, upset MVP. So, there's a lot of comparisons going on that people are saying, is this going to be a real exciting fight? The thing that I look at is the first time a competitor gets hit in bare knuckle with the bare knuckle. That kind of tells everything about what's going to happen. So, it's going to be interesting to see how Mike Perry comes out, and if he cracks Luke Rockhold with a great shot, and how Luke reacts to that. And my heart's telling me that Luke's going to react pretty good to it, because he's been in with every top fighter in the world.
I'm sure you've had goosebumps many times in some of your fights that you've put on. But talking about coming to Vegas and possibly doing something here, the fight capital of the world, where you've seen some of the billboards that we've seen throughout our lifetime with names like Ali and Sugar Ray, and to know that possibly one day your promotion, your fighters could be up there, what does that do in the goosebump department?
You just gave them to me, man. It's crazy, but look, I mean, to be able to do a show here, my dad was a trainer of 7 world champions. We had fights at the MGM Grand on major Oscar De La Hoya cards. I fought here myself, and to be able to put on a marquee event, not just put on an event, not put on a club show, but to put on a marquee event that everyone's going to talk about in Las Vegas under the shining lights with the big signs, it's amazing, and that's really going to, be like one of the biggest things that'll ever happen with this sport.
I'll peel back the curtain a little bit. Before we started recording, a mixed martial artist walked up to you and said, I hope one day I can fight for your promotion. They're under another promotion. Do you remember when the turning point was where you obviously have to go to fighters and ask them to come to you, but when it started to turn around where they started to come to you?
I think it was kind of around Palomino and Artem Lobov fight. That fight kind of brought out a lot of boxing guys and a lot of guys that know that we were willing to pay decent money. And now, look, the word gets around. If you treat someone good, people talk about it. If you do the right thing, they talk about it. We do the right thing. We treat the fighters good. We pay them good. We let them get sponsorships. We actually help them get sponsorships. We do a lot of things for the fighters, to ensure that they're going to make some extra money and not just the money they're getting paid to fight. We treat them great medically. We have the best medical staff in the world. Our doctors are unbelievable. We're up all night with these guys. We just make sure that the fighters are taken care of, and I think that they talk to other fighters about that, and that's why we're getting a great reputation. If you do something bad to someone, that spreads like wildfire. If you do something good, people talk about that too, and we're doing a good thing for a lot of these fighters, and I think that's why the organization is growing.
Back to your event, if you look at that day, as oftentimes in other promotions, the focus is on a couple people, and some people just kind of get passed over. That mic went to everyone. Everybody had questions for everyone. one guy, Big Ben Rothwell, that kind of shined there. What would you say is the cutoff for trying to find him an opponent for this fight? He's a guy that's got the looks. He fights great in there. It seems like he's a great asset for the company, but it probably is difficult to book fights for him. What would you say is the cutoff for this?
We'll have an opponent by Friday, 100%. I mean, we have 6 options right now. We just found out for sure yesterday, so we kind of heard the whisper around it, but we found out 100% for sure yesterday. So we made some calls. We have some really interesting opponents, man. It's going to be interesting. We actually have one of our former heavyweight world champions that's interested in fighting him. So I think something's going to pop here tomorrow or the next day, and we'll have it locked in by Friday.
Dave, just a little housekeeping. Is the plan still to go to Lima, Peru with Luis Palomino sometime?
Yeah, I mean, we also have Tongo. If you know Tongo, he was a former Bellator fighter. He's a commentator for ESPN Latin America for the UFC. He fought for us, and he's in Uruguay, and that's next to Peru. So it's going to be one of those, absolutely. I actually, was able to do a call with the president of Uruguay, so it's going to be in either Uruguay or Peru, absolutely, at some point this year.
I saw the episode of Traffic with Mariano Vanzeller, and I enjoyed it. Part of me said, well, is it too gritty, too underground? Like, did it possibly give a bad look? But at the same time, part of the footage showed Masvidal and Kimbo back in the day, and they were super popular. And at the end of the day, that's what we're doing here, bare knuckle fighting, right? So overall, after the episode aired, what did you think? And do you think it was portrayed okay? Just because they had the whole thing about could the cops show up? There's guns present.
Yeah,
and
I absolutely think that Marina threw us under the bus. Absolutely, 100% threw us under the bus. That wasn't as it was told it to us. It was going to be done. That wasn't how it was shot. She actually asked me questions and edited in answers from different questions to make it seem like I was answering different questions. So I don't think that we got just due on that. I do think, however, it's going to get fans to watch BKFC, but I don't think it's good for regulators or sponsors or anything like that. They had a heroin dealer on there and kind of associated like that's where fighters were coming from, right? And that's absolutely not the case at all. So look, the end of the day is, my brother actually told me this, Dave, they're talking. As long as they're talking, it's good. It's going to grow the sport. But at the end of the day, is there's a fine line of where things can make a sharp left turn, and I think that did a little bit.
A little bit under a month away on the pay-per-view, and BKFC 41. We look forward to it. Thank you, Dave Feldman, as always, for the time.
Man, always. Thanks.